The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as Ambassador Zara Nix stood before the assembled alien dignitaries. Her emerald eyes scanned the room, taking in the diverse array of beings from across the cosmos. Some were humanoid, others decidedly not, but all shared a wary expression as they regarded the human representative. Zara cleared her throat, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Esteemed members of the Council, I come before you today with grave news. The Drekthar Empire has committed an unforgivable atrocity against humanity. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Drekthar were known for their aggressive expansion, but they had never dared to directly challenge Earth or its colonies. 3 solar cycles ago, Zora continued, a Drekthar raiding party attacked the human colony on Novus Prime. They slaughtered civilians indiscriminately, but their most heinous act was the cold-blooded murder of children. Gasps of horror echoed from various corners of the room. Even among the more militant species, the targeting of young ones was considered taboo. We have proof, Zara said, her voice tight with controlled anger. She gestured, and a holographic display flickered to life in the center of the chamber. The footage was grainy but unmistakable. Drekthar soldiers, with their distinctive scaled armor, gunning down fleeing colonists. The camera panned to a group of human children huddled together, terror etched on their young faces. What happened next caused several council members to avert their eyes in disgust. As the hologram faded, silence blanketed the chamber. Zara's gaze swept the room once more, noting the shock and revulsion on most faces. But there were a few, particularly the Drekthar ambassador, who remained impassive. Humanity has always strived for peaceful coexistence, Zara said, her voice growing stronger. We've shared our technology, our art, our very essence with the galactic community. But make no mistake, we will not stand idly by while our children are slaughtered. The Drekthar ambassador, a hulking reptilian named Shkoth, rose from his seat. These accusations are baseless, he hissed. The footage is clearly fabricated. The Drekthar Empire does not target non-combatants, let alone younglings. Zara's eyes narrowed. Are you calling humanity liars, Ambassador Shkoth? I'm saying, Shkoth replied, his forked tongue flicking out, that humans are known for their emotional outbursts. Perhaps you misinterpreted a legitimate military action. The chamber erupted in angry shouts and accusations. The council moderator, a being of pure energy named Exile, pulsed brightly to restore order. Ambassador Nix, Exile's melodious voice rang out. What does Earth intend to do about this alleged attack? Zara straightened, her face a mask of determination. The United Earth government has activated the Sentinel Protocol. Our fleet, ships that have remained hidden since the formation of the Galactic Council, is being mobilized as we speak. Shocked whispers filled the air. Earth's military capabilities had always been something of a mystery, with most species assuming they were limited to system defense. We came here today not to ask for permission, Zara declared, her voice ringing with conviction, but to inform the Council of our actions. The Drekthar Empire will answer for their crimes, and let this serve as a warning to any who would threaten humanity or its allies. We are not to be trifled with. As Zara stepped down from the podium, the council chamber descended into chaos. Species that had long viewed humans as a minor player in galactic affairs suddenly found themselves reevaluating their stance. The Drekthar ambassador stormed out, no doubt to inform his superiors of the impending human retaliation. In the midst of the commotion, Zara's communicator buzzed. She discreetly checked the message and allowed herself a grim smile. The Terran fleet had already begun its advance towards Drekthar space. The galaxy was about to learn a painful lesson. Humanity's compassion was matched only by its capacity for righteous fury. As she left the council chamber, Zara couldn't help but think of the children lost on Novus Prime. Their deaths would not be in vain. The Drekthar had awoken a sleeping giant, and retribution was coming. The unveiling. Admiral Elena Vega stood on the bridge of the TFS Prometheus, Earth's most advanced warship. Through the panoramic view screen, she watched as hundreds of ships materialized from seemingly nowhere, their stealth fields disengaging in a dazzling display of technological prowess. "Status report," Elena commanded, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. Her XO, Commander Rajpatal, responded promptly. "All ships accounted for, Admiral. The Sentinel fleet is fully operational and awaiting your orders." Elena nodded, a hint of pride gleaming in her dark eyes. For decades, humanity had kept its true military might hidden, a precaution against potential threats. Now, that hidden strength was about to be unleashed. "Open a channel to the fleet," Elena ordered. As the communication officer complied, she took a deep breath. "This is Admiral Vega to all Sentinel fleet vessels. The Drekthar Empire has committed unspeakable atrocities against our people. They believe us weak, unprepared. Today, we prove them wrong." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Our mission is clear. We will strike at the heart of Drekthar military power. But remember, we are not like them. We do not target civilians. We do not kill children. We are the guardians of humanity, and we will show the galaxy that our justice is as swift as it is righteous." As Elena concluded her speech, a chorus of affirmations echoed through the comm channel. The fleet was ready, eager to avenge their fallen kin. Meanwhile, in Drekthar space, panic was spreading. Long-range sensors had detected the massive human armada, and the Imperial Palace was in chaos. Emperor Krazk, supreme ruler of the Drekthar, raged at his military advisors. "How is this possible?" he roared, his scaled skin flushing a deep crimson. "You assured me the humans were defenseless beyond their home system." General Vexkor, head of Imperial Intelligence, cowered before his emperor. "My lord, we had no intel on this fleet. They must have developed cloaking technology far beyond our capabilities." Krazk's tail lashed furiously. "Excuses. Mobilize every ship we have. Crush these human vermin before they can." An aide burst into the throne room, interrupting the emperor mid-sentence. "Your Imperial Majesty, we're receiving a transmission from the humans." The emperor's eyes narrowed. "Put it through." A holographic image flickered to life in the center of the room. Admiral Elena Vega's stern face stared down at the assembled Drekthar. "Emperor Krazk," Elena's voice was cold as ice. "I am Admiral Elena Vega of the Terran Sentinel Fleet. Your forces have committed war crimes against the people of Earth, murdering innocent civilians and children. We are here to bring you to justice." Krazk sneered. "You dare threaten the Drekthar Empire? We will crush your pathetic fleet and—" Elena cut him off. "This is not a negotiation, Emperor. It is a reckoning. You have one planetary rotation to surrender those responsible for the Novus Prime massacre. Failure to comply will result in the full might of Earth being brought to bear against your empire." As the transmission ended, Krazk turned to his generals, fury etched on his reptilian features. "Prepare for war," he snarled. Back on the Prometheus, Elena received a priority communication from Earth. Ambassador Zara Nix's face appeared on the view screen. "Admiral," Zara said, her expression grim, "the Galactic Council is in an uproar. Several species are demanding we stand down, fearing this conflict could destabilize the entire sector." Elena's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, Ambassador, we can't back down now. The Drekthar must be held accountable." Zara nodded. "I agree, but we need to be careful. The Council has dispatched observers to monitor the situation. We can't afford to give our enemies any propaganda victories." "Understood," Elena replied. "We'll proceed as planned. The Drekthar will learn that actions have consequences." As the communication ended, Elena turned to her crew. The bridge was a hive of activity, officers preparing for the impending battle. "Tactical," she called out. "What's the status of the Drekthar fleet?" Lieutenant Sarah Chen responded promptly. "They're mobilizing, Admiral. Estimated time to engagement, 3 hours." Elena's eyes hardened. In 3 hours, the galaxy would witness the true power of humanity unleashed. The Drekthar had sown the wind. Now they would reap the whirlwind. All hands, she announced, her voice resonating through the ship. Battle stations. We fight for Earth. We fight for justice. We fight for those who can no longer fight for themselves. As klaxons blared throughout the Prometheus and the rest of the Sentinel fleet, humanity steeled itself for the coming storm. The Drekthar were about to learn a painful lesson. Earth's children were under the protection of giants. The battle begins. The vastness of space erupted into chaos as the Terran Sentinel fleet engaged the Drekthar armada. Sleek human ships, their hulls gleaming with advanced energy shielding, clashed with the crude but numerous vessels of the Reptilian Empire. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Admiral Elena Vega watched the tactical display with steely focus. "Status report," she demanded. Commander Raj Patel's fingers flew over his console. "Our first wave has broken through their outer defenses, Admiral. Minimal casualties on our side. The Drekthar, they're not faring as well." Elena nodded grimly. The technological gap between the two forces was evident. Humanity had kept its true capabilities hidden for decades, and now that secrecy was paying off. "Target their command ships," Elena ordered. "Cripple their ability to coordinate." As the battle raged, news spread rapidly across the galaxy. On countless worlds, beams of all species gathered around view screens, watching in awe as humanity revealed its true might. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Zara Nix stood before the assembled dignitaries once more. The mood was tense, with many species now fearing the power Earth had kept hidden. "We understand your concerns," Zara said, her voice steady. "But I assure you, Earth has no intention of galactic domination. We seek only justice for the innocent lives lost on Novus Prime." The Volcran ambassador, a being of living crystal, chimed in. "But Ambassador Nix, surely you see how this display of force threatens the balance of power in the galaxy." Zara's emerald eyes flashed. And where was the galaxy's concern for balance when the Drekthar slaughtered our children? "We tried diplomacy. We sought peaceful resolutions. But there comes a time when action is necessary." As the debate in the council chamber grew heated, the battle in Drekthar space intensified. The Prometheus shuddered as it absorbed a direct hit from an enemy battlecruiser. "Shields holding at 82%, Lieutenant Sarah Chen reported. "That battlecruiser is preparing for another salvo." Elena's lips curled into a predatory smile. "Not if we have anything to say about it. Weapons, target their main reactor. Fire when ready." The Prometheus's main cannon, a marvel of human engineering, unleashed a beam of concentrated energy. It sliced through the Drekthar ship's defenses like a hot knife through butter, causing a chain reaction that tore the vessel apart. As the battle progressed, it became clear that the Drekthar were outmatched. Their ships fell one by one, unable to penetrate the advanced shields and armor of the human fleet. In the Imperial Palace on the Drekthar homeworld, Emperor Krasik watched in horror as his mighty armada crumbled before the human onslaught. "This is impossible," he raged, his scales pale with fear. "Where did they get such technology?" General Vexicor, bleeding from a wound sustained during a human precision strike on a military installation, struggled to his feet. "My Emperor, we must consider surrender. We cannot win this battle." Krasik's eyes bulged with fury. "Surrender? To those soft-skinned apes? Never. We are Drekthar. We do not yield." As if in response to the Emperor's defiance, the palace shook violently. Outside, the sky was filled with falling debris, the remnants of the once proud Drekthar fleet burning up in the atmosphere. Back on the Prometheus, Elena received a priority communication. It was Dr. Ilara Solaris, the fleet's chief xenobiologist and ethics officer. "Admiral," Ilara's face was grave on the view screen. "I've been monitoring the Drekthar communications we've intercepted. They're preparing to use civilian populations as human shields. They're moving non-combatants to military installations. Alina's blood ran cold. This was exactly the kind of atrocity they were fighting against. Thank you, Doctor. We'll adjust our strategy accordingly. She turned to her command staff. Listen up, people. The Drekthar are getting desperate. They're using their own civilians as shields. We need to find a way to neutralize their military capabilities without causing civilian casualties. Commander Petal spoke up. What about the EM pulse weapon? It could disable their systems without harming organic life. Alina nodded. Good thinking, Raj. But we'll need to get closer to their key installations. It's risky, but it's our best option for minimizing collateral damage. As the Prometheus and its escort ships broke from the main fleet, heading towards the Drekthar homeworld, Alina couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. They had come to dispense justice, not to become the very monsters they were fighting against. The next few hours would determine not just the outcome of this conflict, but humanity's place in the galactic community. As they approached the planet, Alina steeled herself for the challenges ahead. The true test of humanity's resolve was about to begin. The moral crucible. The Prometheus and its escort ships entered the atmosphere of the Drekthar homeworld, Sauron Prime. The planet's twin suns cast an eerie glow on the landscape below, a world of harsh deserts and sprawling military complexes. Admiral Alina Vega stood at the helm, her face a mask of concentration. Status of the EM pulse weapon. Charged and ready, Admiral, Lieutenant Chen reported. But we'll need to get within 500 kilometers of the main military installations for maximum effectiveness. Alina nodded grimly. That'll put us well within range of their ground-based defenses. Helm, plot an approach vector. We'll only get one shot at this. As the ships descended, the Drekthar unleashed a barrage of anti-aircraft fire. The human vessels weaved through the onslaught, their advanced shields flickering under the assault. Admiral, Commander Patel called out. We're picking up massive life sign readings from the military bases. They've moved thousands of civilians into the complexes. Alina's jaw clenched. The Drekthar were forcing them into an impossible situation. Can we get a visual? The main screen flickered to life, showing thermal images of the bases below. Amidst the heat signatures of weapons and machinery, there were unmistakable clusters of civilian life signs. Dr. Ilara Solaris, who had insisted on joining the mission, spoke up. Admiral, if we deploy the EM pulse now, we'll save the civilians, but the Drekthar military will retain some of their capabilities. They could regroup and continue the fight. And if we don't use it? Alina asked, already knowing the answer. Ilara's voice was heavy. Then any conventional attack would result in massive civilian casualties. We'd be no better than the Drekthar who attacked Novus Prime. The bridge fell silent, the weight of the decision palpable. Alina closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of the children lost on Novus Prime, of the galaxy watching their every move, of the future of human-alien relations hanging in the balance. We used the pulse, she said finally. We didn't come here to slaughter innocents. We came for justice, not vengeance. As the crew prepared to deploy the weapon, a priority communication came through. Ambassador Zara Nix's face appeared on the screen, her expression urgent. Admiral, the Galactic Council has just received a transmission from a group claiming to be Drekthar resistance fighters. They say they have evidence that Emperor Krasik ordered the attack on Novus Prime against the wishes of many of his own people. Alina's eyes widened. Can they be trusted? Zara shook her head. We're not sure, but they're offering to help us take down Krasik's regime from the inside. They claim they can help us target the Emperor and his inner circle without harming civilians. It was a tempting offer, but Alina hesitated. Trusting an unknown faction in the heat of battle was risky. Yet, if they were genuine, it could end the conflict with minimal bloodshed. What do you think, Ambassador? Alina asked. Zara's emerald eyes were resolute. I think we need to take the chance. This could be our opportunity to show the galaxy that humans are not just powerful, but wise and just as well. Elena turned to her crew. Opinions. Commander Paddle spoke first. It's risky, but it could save a lot of lives. I say we do it. Dr. Solaris nodded in agreement. From an ethical standpoint, if we have a chance to end this without further civilian casualties, we must take it. All right, Elena said, making her decision. Tell the resistance we'll work with them, but we'll proceed with caution. I want our forces ready to deploy the E-Impulse at a moment's notice if this goes south. As the Prometheus altered its course to rendezvous with the Drekthar resistance, Elena couldn't shake a feeling of unease. They were about to place their trust in an unknown ally, on a hostile world, with the eyes of the galaxy upon them. The next few hours would determine not just the outcome of this conflict, but the future of humanity's role in galactic affairs. As they approached the coordinates provided by the resistance, Elena steeled herself for whatever challenges lay ahead. In the depths of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Krasik paced nervously, unaware of the alliance forming against him. The human fleet had proven far more formidable than he had ever imagined, and now his own people were turning against him. As both sides prepared for the final confrontation, the fate of two species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The true test of humanity's resolve, wisdom, and compassion was about to unfold. Unlikely alliances, the Prometheus hovered silently above the rendezvous point, a desolate canyon on the outskirts of the Drekthar capital. Admiral Elena Vega stood in the ship's hangar bay, surrounded by a squad of Earth's most elite soldiers. Tension hung in the air like a thick fog. Remember, Elena addressed her team, we're here to end this conflict, not escalate it. Trust the resistance, but verify everything. As the hangar doors opened, revealing the harsh landscape of Sauron Prime, a small group of Drekthar emerged from the shadows of the canyon. Their leader, a battle-scarred female named Sira, stepped forward. Admiral Vega, Sira's voice was raspy but determined. We appreciate your willingness to trust us. Time is short. Krasik knows his reign is coming to an end. He's becoming more desperate by the hour. Elena nodded, studying the rebel leader. What's your plan? Sira produced a holographic map of the Imperial Palace. We have operatives inside who can disable the security systems, but we need your technology to breach the inner sanctum. Krasik has surrounded himself with the most fanatical members of his guard. As the human and Drekthar teams began to strategize, Dr. Ilara Solaris approached Elena. Admiral, a word. They stepped aside, and Ilara spoke in hushed tones. I've been analyzing their biosignatures. These Drekthar, they're genetically different from the ones we've encountered before. Subtle changes, but significant. Elena's brow furrowed. Meaning? I believe they're part of a subspecies, Ilara explained. One that might be more inclined towards cooperation and peace. It could explain their resistance to Krasik's regime. This information added a new layer of complexity to an already intricate situation. Elena realized that this conflict wasn't just about justice for Novus Prime anymore. It was about the future of the Drekthar species itself. As the joint team prepared to move out, a priority communication came through from the Prometheus. Commander Patel's voice crackled over the comm. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations from the Imperial Palace. It looks like... Oh no. Spit it out, Raj, Elena demanded. They're activating some kind of superweapon, Patel replied, his voice grim. If these readings are correct, it has the potential to devastate not just their world, but several neighboring systems. Sira hissed in shock. The Worldbreaker. It was supposed to be a myth, a deterrent. Krasik actually built it. Elena's mind raced. They had come to deliver justice, not witness the annihilation of an entire species. New plan, she announced. We split into 2 teams. Sira, take your best people and half of my squad. Get to Krasik, capture him if you can, but stop him at all costs. The rest of us will deal with this world breaker." As the teams separated, Alina couldn't help but marvel at the irony. Here they were, humans and Drekthar, working together to save a world that had been their enemy mere hours ago. The journey to the World Breaker's control center was a blur of firefights and narrow escapes. Alina's team, aided by Sira's intelligence, fought their way through waves of loyalist Drekthar. Finally, they'd reached the massive chamber housing the superweapon. It was a terrifying sight, a pulsing orb of energy growing larger by the second. "Can we shut it down?" Alina asked, desperation creeping into her voice. A Drekthar technician who had joined their cause shook his head. "Not without the Emperor's genetic key. But we might be able to overload it. Destroy the weapon before it can be used, and take half the planet with it." Alina's voice was sharp. The technician looked down. It's that or risk multiple systems being wiped out. Once again, Alina found herself facing an impossible choice. The fate of millions hung in the balance, and the decision rested on her shoulders. At that moment, her comm crackled to life. It was Sira. "Admiral, we've reached Krask. He's dead. Took his own life rather than face justice. But we've secured the palace." A glimmer of hope. "Sira, does Krask have some kind of genetic key? We needed to shut down the world breaker." There was a pause, then Sira's voice returned, excited. "Yes, we found it. Transmitting the data to you now." With trembling hands, Alina input the genetic key into the world breaker's control system. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the pulsing orb of energy began to shrink. As the superweapon powered down, a cheer went up from both humans and Drekthar alike. They had done it. They had stopped a catastrophe and ended a tyrannical regime. But Alina knew their work was far from over. As she looked around at the unlikely allies surrounding her, she realized that the real challenge was just beginning. How would the galaxy react to this unexpected alliance? Could centuries of mistrust between humans and Drekthar be overcome? As the twin suns of Soran Prime began to set, casting a golden glow over the war-torn landscape, Alina allowed herself a small smile. They had come seeking justice for a terrible crime, but in the process, they might have just laid the foundation for a more united and peaceful galaxy. The real work, she knew, was about to begin. Echoes of victory. The Galactic Council chamber was abuzz with activity. Representatives from hundreds of species huddled in small groups, their voices a cacophony of different languages as they discussed the recent events. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Zara Nix and Admiral Alina Vega, flanked by Sira, the Drekthar resistance leader. As the council moderator called for order, a hush fell over the assembly. The Volcran ambassador, his crystalline form shimmering with barely contained energy, spoke first. "We have witnessed something unprecedented," he began, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Humanity, a species many of us underestimated, not only revealed hidden strength but showed remarkable restraint and wisdom in its application." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. The Volcran continued, "And the Drekthar, long viewed as aggressors, have shown us that no species is monolithic. There are always those who strive for peace, even in the darkest of regimes." Zara stepped forward, her emerald eyes scanning the assembly. "Esteemed members of the Council, we stand at a crossroads. The events on Soran Prime have reshaped the galactic landscape. Earth extends an open hand to all species, including our former adversaries." She gestured to Sira, who moved to stand beside her. The Drekthar's presence caused a stir, but Sira spoke with dignity and poise. "My people have lived under the shadow of tyranny for too long," Sira declared. "With Krask's regime toppled, we seek to forge a new path, one of cooperation, not conquest." As Sira spoke, Alina couldn't help but reflect on the whirlwind of events that had led to this moment. The horror of Novus Prime, the revelation of Earth's hidden fleet, the desperate battle above Soran Prime, and the unlikely alliance that had saved millions of lives. The Galactic Council debated long into the night. There were those who feared the power Earth had displayed, others who questioned the sincerity of the Drekthar reformation. But as the discussions wore on, a consensus began to emerge. The galaxy was changing, and with change came opportunity. In the end, a series of resolutions were passed. Earth would share its advanced defensive technologies with peaceful worlds, creating a network of protected planets. In return, humanity would take a more active role in galactic affairs, serving as peacekeepers and mediators. The Drekthar, under the leadership of a provisional government headed by Sura, would undergo a period of supervised reconstruction. War criminals would face justice, but the emphasis would be on rehabilitation and reintegration into the galactic community. As the council session ended, Alina found herself on a balcony overlooking the sprawling galactic capital. Zara joined her, a datapad in hand. "Quite a day," Zara mused, leaning against the railing. Alina nodded, her eyes fixed on the distant horizon. "I keep thinking about those children on Novus Prime. Did we do right by them?" Zara placed a comforting hand on Alina's shoulder. "We sought justice, not vengeance. And in the process, we may have prevented countless more tragedies. I'd say we honored their memory." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only when Zara's datapad chimed. Her eyes widened as she read the incoming message. "Alina, you're not going to believe this," Zara said, her voice filled with awe. "The genetic differences Dr. Solaris noted in the Drekthar resistance. They're not a natural subspecies. They're the result of ancient human DNA." Alina turned, shock evident on her face. "What? How is that possible?" Zara shook her head, still processing the information. "The report suggests that thousands of years ago, humans and Drekthar may have coexisted, perhaps even interbred. These resistance members, they're distant human-Drekthar hybrids." The implications were staggering. Not only did it explain the resistance's divergent values, but it also hinted at a shared history between humans and Drekthar that had been lost to time. As the twin moons of the galactic capital rose in the sky, Alina felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey that had begun with tragedy on Novus Prime had led to a moment of profound discovery and hope. "So, what's next?" Alina asked, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. Zara's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We've been invited to Soran Prime. The provisional government wants to begin talks on reparations, cultural exchange programs, joint scientific ventures. It's a new era, Alina." As they turned to leave, Alina cast one last look at the star-filled sky. The galaxy had seen the strength of humanity unleashed, but it had also witnessed their capacity for mercy, for forging unlikely alliances, for turning enemies into friends. The road ahead would be challenging, filled with diplomatic pitfalls and lingering mistrust. But for the first time in recent memory, there was hope for a truly united galaxy. And humanity, once content to hide its true potential, would be at the forefront of this new age of exploration and cooperation. The children of Novus Prime had not died in vain. Their tragedy had become the catalyst for a transformation that would reshape the cosmos for generations to come. A new dawn. 5 years had passed since the fateful day when humanity's might was unleashed upon the galaxy. The Terran embassy on Soran Prime bustled with activity, a symbol of the remarkable transformation that had taken place. Ambassador Zara Nix stood before a large window, gazing out at the sprawling capital city. The once militaristic architecture was now interspersed with parks and cultural centers. In the distance, a joint human-Drekthar science facility dominated the skyline, its sleek design a testament to the cooperation between the two species. A gentle chime announced the arrival of Admiral Alina Vega, now the head of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. The years had added a few strands of gray to her hair, but her eyes still held the same determination. "Ready for the ceremony?" Alina asked, a smile playing on her lips. Zara nodded, smoothing down her formal attire. "As ready as I'll ever be. I still can't believe we've come this far." Together, they made their way to the grand plaza outside the embassy. A diverse crowd had gathered: humans, Drekthar, and representatives from dozens of other species. At the center stood a veiled monument. As Zara and Elena took their places on the stage, they were joined by Sira, now the elected leader of the Drekthar Confederation. The once battle-hardened resistance fighter had grown into a respected stateswoman. Zara stepped up to the podium, her voice carrying across the hushed audience. 5 years ago, a terrible tragedy brought us to the brink of interstellar war. The children of Novus Prime paid the ultimate price for the hatred and fear that had divided our peoples for too long. She paused, her eyes scanning the crowd. But from that darkness, we found light. We discovered not only the strength to stand against injustice, but the wisdom to forge a new path. With a nod from Zara, Elena, and Sira stepped forward. Together, they pulled the veil from the monument. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. The memorial was a stunning piece of art, a spiral of crystalline structures rising from a reflective pool. Each crystal contained the name of a child lost on Novus Prime, their images etched in light. At the top, human and Drekthar hands intertwined, reaching for the stars. This monument, Zora continued, her voice thick with emotion, stands as a reminder of what we lost and what we have gained. It is a promise to future generations that we will never again let fear and misunderstanding drive us to conflict. As the ceremony continued, Dr. Ilara Solaris approached Alina, excitement evident in her eyes. "Admiral, Ambassador," she whispered, "we've had a breakthrough in the genetics lab. We've managed to activate dormant human DNA sequences in volunteer Drekthar subjects. The results are remarkable." Elena's eyes widened. What kind of results? Increased empathy, improved cognitive flexibility, and most surprisingly, the ability to form telepathic connections, not just with each other, but with humans as well, Ilara explained. The implications were staggering. This discovery could revolutionize not just human-Drekthar relations, but interspecies communication throughout the galaxy. As the ceremony drew to a close, Zura invited Sira to address the crowd. The Drekthar leader spoke of reconciliation, of the shared future that lay ahead. But it was her closing words that would be remembered for generations to come. "We stand here today, not as separate species, but as children of the cosmos," Sira declared. "The tragedy that brought us together has taught us a valuable lesson, that our differences are insignificant compared to the bonds we can forge. Together, we will explore the stars not as conquerors, but as seekers of knowledge and understanding." As night fell on Sauron Prime, the monument lit up, each crystal glowing softly, a beacon of hope in the darkness. Zara, Elena, and Sira stood together, watching as humans and Drekthar mingled freely, sharing stories and dreams. "You know," Elena mused, "when we unleashed our fleet 5 years ago, I never imagined this would be the result." Zara smiled, her eyes reflecting the light of the memorial. "Sometimes, the greatest victories come not from the battles we fight, but from the peace we build afterward." Sira nodded in agreement. "And the greatest strength lies not in our ability to destroy, but in our capacity to create, to understand, to forgive." As they stood there, a group of children, human and Drekthar, ran past, laughing and playing together. It was a simple moment, but one that embodied everything they had fought for. The galaxy was entering a new age of exploration and discovery. Earth's hidden fleet, once a deterrent, had become a force for peace and scientific advancement. The Drekthar, freed from tyranny, were rediscovering their ancient connection to humanity and forging a new identity. And on distant worlds, other species watched and wondered. The story of how the death of a human child led not to endless war, but to an unprecedented era of cooperation, spread across the stars. It served as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope could be found, and that the future belonged to those brave enough to reach for it together. As the twin suns of Sauron Prime set on this historic day, the united fleet of human and Drekthar ships rose into the atmosphere, their lights twinkling like newborn stars. They carried with them the dreams of two peoples, once enemies, now family, bound together by a shared past and a common future. The galaxy would never be the same, and somewhere, in the grand cosmic dance, the children of Novus Prime smiled upon the legacy they had left behind. A legacy not of vengeance, but of understanding, growth, and everlasting peace.